What have I just watched? England have beaten France by 6 goals to 4 to win the bronze medal at the FIFA World Cup. And honestly, I don't think anyone expected a third place playoff to become one of the greatest World Cup matches I think we've ever seen. If the final between Spain and Argentina is going to be that, well, good luck. Because England and France have produced absolute football chaos. So let's get into it. Now, this was the type of game where I expected the Mbappe special to happen.
What's the Mbappe special?
For example, nothing.
Or it would be like that football game in the Minions where if someone scored, people would celebrate, but only really half-heartedly. This is because when people talk about third place playoffs, they usually expect two tied teams who would rather be already on the plane home. Instead, England and France decided to give us 10 goals. 10. And somehow it had absolutely everything. England flew out of the blocks. Within just 3 minutes, Declan Rice had England in front with their first meaningful shot on target. And it was an absolute beauty from him as well, outside the box. I guess it also did set the tone for what looked like a completely one-sided afternoon. Or evening if you were in the UK. Then somehow Ezri Konsa doubled the lead from a corner, and it was somehow 2-0 inside 20 minutes. France suddenly looked shell-shocked, and England were looking unbelievable. They were intense, they pressed higher, they moved the ball quicker, and every attack looked dangerous. And then came Bukayo Saka. Now, I don't think he's had the best tournament, but he managed to grab a brace before half-time to make it 4-0 to England at half-time. Now, I genuinely thought the game was over now. At 4-0, England were playing with freedom, every attack looked like it could end in another goal, and this was the England we've been waiting to see almost all tournament. They're aggressive, they're fearless, they're positive, and everything we criticised after the Argentina defeat had suddenly disappeared. While France just looked beaten and ready to go home. But then the game changed. Kylian Mbappe reminded everyone exactly why he's one of the greatest players on the planet. He pulled one back, then Bradley Barcola made it 4-2. And suddenly England looked nervous. The confidence disappeared, the pressing became hesitant, the passing wasn't as crisp. France sensed blood now, and then Mbappe scored again to make it 4-3. And for a while it honestly felt inevitable that France would get a fourth. And it probably would have been as well if Elise had his scoring boots on. But he was missing so many big chances. Which I guess was lucky for England, but I also kind of felt bad for him, because he was in tears afterwards because he missed those chances. Anyway, England now looked like they were about to throw away one of the biggest leads in World Cup history. You could almost feel every England fan having flashbacks. Please don't do this again! Because it became wave after wave of French attacks, and every clearance felt desperate and every corner felt dangerous. And that is probably the biggest negative from today's performance. Well, yesterday's now, but still. England simply cannot switch off like that. Against the very best teams, you don't get away with that. And against Argentina in the semi-final, they were punished for moments where they lost control. Well, they basically gave Argentina control, and today they nearly repeated exactly the same mistake. The difference, this time they found a way to respond. Because England were awarded a penalty after Gusto brought down Jed Spence in the box. And when the pressure was at its highest, Bukayo Saka stepped up and slotted it away for his hat-trick. What a performance from him. He was absolutely sensational. Then, just when we thought it was all over, France scored again through Ousmane Dembele, making the score 5-4. And now there was more chaos and nerves for England fans who found it impossible to predict what was coming next. Then Jude Bellingham had the final say on the game by grabbing England's 6th goal deep into stoppage time. Now it was game over. The bronze was secured by England, and what a game for a third place playoff, and what a way to finish for both teams. Now, if we compare this to the Argentina final, I actually think these two games tell us a lot about where this England team is. Against Argentina, for the most part, England looked cautious. They allowed Argentina to dictate long periods of the game, which was what allowed Argentina to actually get back and win. Whereas today, we saw almost the complete opposite. I suppose it was because Thomas Tuchel had learned his lesson that the Southgate method does not work. So England attacked with confidence, the midfield moved the ball quicker, and there was far more movement from the forwards. Which I suppose would happen when they're actually getting the ball from the midfield and from the defence. instead of just giving it back to Argentina. Either way, the players took risks, they played on the front foot, and that is exactly how the squad should be playing. However, the semi-final also exposed England's defensive concentration. And today kind of reinforced it. You cannot concede 4 goals at a World Cup and expect that to become a habit. The defensive organisation still needs work. Yes, this was basically England's B team, and it was up against the likes of Mbappe, Barcola, Doué, Elise, and Dembele when he came on, and that is a dangerous attack every day. But yeah, managing games still needs work. And when you're 4-0 up, elite teams kill the game, and England made life incredibly difficult for themselves. And that is something that Thomas Tuchel absolutely has to improve before the next major tournament. Now, speaking of Thomas Tuchel, I have seen plenty of people calling for him to be sacked after losing the semi-final. I completely disagree. Because if you look at the bigger picture, this is his first World Cup, and England have just finished 3rd. That is England's best World Cup finish since 1966, and that was the year they won the whole thing. Yes, losing to Argentina hurts. Of course it did. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But international football is about progression. It is about building a team capable of winning trophies. And throughout this tournament, we have seen plenty of evidence that Thomas Tuchel is building something exciting. Harry Kane was unstoppable. Players like Saka and Gordon have flourished as the tournament's gone on, and Declan Rice has looked like a genuine leader. Not to mention Jude Bellingham is probably the best midfielder in the world right now. So yeah, England have shown they can score goals, they've shown they can dominate top opposition, and now it's about learning how to manage those big moments. That doesn't happen overnight. Every great international side has setbacks before eventually winning trophies. Spain had them, Argentina had them, France had them, England are no different. Sacking Tuchel now would simply restart the entire project. Giving new ideas, new tactics and new relationships in another period of transition that is not needed when this tournament has shown enough positives to believe England are moving in the right direction with Thomas Tuchel. Does he need to improve certain things? Absolutely, like game management, defensive organisation and keeping control when momentum swings. But those are all areas that need work, and those are coachable. What you can't coach is talent, and this England squad has an unbelievable amount of that. So give Tuchel another tournament with his group, and I genuinely believe England can challenge for the next major trophy. And hopefully we can win it, given the fact that the next Euros is in England. Overall, this wasn't a perfect performance, far from it, but England were brilliant, they were reckless, they were dominant, and they were vulnerable. So they somehow managed to show every side of themselves inside 90 minutes. But after the disappointment against Argentina, this was exactly the response that the supporters wanted. A performance full of courage, goals, entertainment, character, and a bronze medal to take home for England. So congratulations to the squads, and now all eyes will turn towards the World Cup final tonight. Can Spain and Argentina possibly produce a better match than this? Honestly, I don't think so. But let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and was this the greatest third place playoff you've ever seen? Did Thomas Tuchel prove he deserves more time as England manager, and who was your player of the match? Because for me it has to be Bukayo Saka, as a World Cup hat-trick is simply sensational. So yeah, that's all from me. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.